Welcome back to the Last American Pubcast, a Tuesday edition, which is our additional day and time now. It's something that we're doing starting in November, which is
Yep.
today. So joining me today will be PJ Williams over from Conspiracy Pilled. And of course, I'm Frank from Let's Be Frank. It is great to be here. And just for an update for everybody that was waiting on me because I was so late, my son did make the basketball team. That is why I was late. I was attending his tryout and wanted to make sure that he had all the support he could get. So
Nice. Glad to hear it, man.
yeah, man. Yeah. Oh, you know what? It's great to be on a Tuesday night. And I'm glad that we're doing this. And just to fill everybody in at home on the Last American Pubcast, if you don't know, we have a regular stream every Saturday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And this is supplemental to that stream. And it's not all of us. It's not all four of us. It will be whether it be PJ, myself, maybe Tom and PJ, Abby and PJ, maybe me and Abby. The combinations are endless. I'm sure it's not endless. There's four of us. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to be doing this more. There's a lot of stories that we don't always have time to get to on one night of the week. And next Tuesday is our election night coverage stream, which I'm very excited for.
Yes, I am as well. Our election watch party night. And make sure you bring in plenty of shots because I'm sure you will need them. I'm anticipating a celebration this election night, but you know, anything can happen, and that's why we're doing the stream.
Maybe it'll be like 2 years ago where we all celebrate and go to bed and then wake up and we're like, what the hell happened? Did I wake up in the Twilight Zone?
Yeah, that actually happened to Brazil lately. Well, we'll talk a little bit about that later tonight.
Sure, yeah, for sure.
So,
how was your Halloween, by the way?
It was fantastic. Thank you for asking. I got to hand out candy.
Nice.
So, me and my wife got to sit out with my in-laws or my brother and sister-in-law. We got to hand out candy together at their house, so that was fun.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I took my kids around the block here, and it was nice. I actually saw for the first time I saw a couple that cared about the kids and the adults, and they were handing out candy to all the kids and shots of whiskey to all the adults, which I thought was pretty interesting. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I'm very excited about doing this Tuesday night show as well, along with PJ. Maybe it'll be all three of us. Sometimes maybe it'll be all four of us, like I mentioned earlier. But regardless, it's a shortened show. We're doing about an hour. And I'm doing a lot of exposition right now, but it's important that you guys know what type of show you're in for if you're tuning in on Tuesday nights with us. And we'll typically start at 7. Again, we were late because of me, but we start at 7, and we'll be, as PJ alluded to, talking about topics sometimes we can't even get to on the pubcast because we got so much to talk about.
Yeah, this has been a crazy week this week. What story do you want to start with tonight?
I want to start with the apology story, the amnesty story, and not amnesty talking about the illegals crossing the border and Democrats want to make them all Democrat voters. No. I'm talking, even though that's horrible too, I'm talking about the COVID amnesty. That's right. The people who were the worst during the pandemics now asking for forgiveness after ruining people's lives, shutting down businesses, not allowing you to be in the hospital with your dying loved ones, not letting you to attend their funeral while they gave George Floyd 16 funerals. No. They now want an apology, PJ, after I've seen many of my fellow streamers, my fellow people, content creators, telling the truth about what was happening during the COVID time, because really nobody had the absolute truth, even though they wanted to present themselves as experts. The media and the doctors and all these medical people like me and others out there were wrongfully given strikes on our channels for medical misinformation. We were taken off the platform. We were kicked off the platform. And now, PJ, they want to come and ask for forgiveness. What say you? I say no. I want tribunals. I want punishment. I want these people to pay. And I will pose this one question to you, PJ, as well. By them asking for forgiveness, is this their way of saying they're wrong?
Yeah, that's what's so crazy about this is this really is the final nail in the coffin on COVID. It's actually something I didn't expect to see. Like them asking and pleading for amnesty makes sense because what these people should be getting is, like you said, tribunals. We should see people in jail. We should see Dr. Anthony Fauci in jail. We should see Gretchen Whitmer in jail for killing your old folks. Cuomo, Gavin Newsom. All these people deserve something that they're not going to get. But what is crazy to me is I just didn't expect them to ever come out and say we were wrong. And this is like as close as we're going to get is, hey, we're wrong, but we just didn't have the information. Like, that's how this article goes. It's like, we didn't have the information. If you were right, it was just because you were right on accident, which is total horse crap. We all have the same information. The reason that you and me and people like us were right is because we actually read the studies. We read the 2014 study that showed masks don't work. We read the studies showing that the COVID molecules were much smaller than the pores in your mask
or whatever, the cloth mask.
Right. And you remember remember when they were selling these cloth masks at Walmart and everywhere, and they said does not prevent the spread of COVID-19 right on the mask. And people all knew this and they admitted it, but they said, well, it makes me feel safe.
So for a virus that escaped a biolab, level 4 biolabbing, you have to have all this gear on to be in. That cloth mask was going to give you the same type of protection it gave you inside that level 4 lab.
yeah, exactly. The whole thing's ridiculous. And all the people that were shut down over this, the lab leak people that were shut down. Anthony Fauci came out and said this in the beginning too, and that's what everybody seems to forget. They forget that we did have the information, and the one thing we didn't have the information on, which was the COVID vaccine, we said, we don't have that information. Here's the information we do have. We know that cloth masks don't work. We know that the outdoor spread isn't a thing. We know that the 6 feet apart rule was a completely arbitrary, made up rule. Entirely made up. And we knew all this. And then the one thing we didn't know was, is this COVID vaccine going to be effective? The results were not conclusive. They actually looked kind of bad. There was no long-term studies, but yet they were going to shut you down. They were going to take away your business. They were going to take away your job, not let you, like you said, see your loved ones. So the stuff that we didn't know is the stuff that they went above and beyond on with the in New York, they had the COVID vaccine passports. Remember when we were shut down for saying that? It was a crazy conspiracy theory.
Yeah, Washington, D.C. as well. The restaurants within that district. And, PJ, I will have a little bit more forgiveness towards family members and even some friends if they weren't complete tyrants about it. And for the ones that were, well, that will be a discussion down the road. But this guy right here sums it up pretty well. Let me go ahead and put it up on the screen for us to listen to this, because this sums it up really well.
Ross the Boss. I like this guy.
I don't know if you got a chance to watch this video.
Yep.
You did?
Yeah, I like Ross. He's a good guy.
Okay, let's take a listen.
Look. They want everybody to forget and forgive everything that happened during the pandemic. We were all in the dark. We were all afraid. Like, nah, bitch. Like, that was like we all got kidnapped and put together on an island, and then all of y'all bastards were like, we should eat them. And we're like, what the fuck? And then now they took us off the island, and we're just looking at you on the ride home like, and you're like, oh, wasn't that crazy? And we're like, nah, bitch, you tried to eat us. I didn't kick you out of those stores. I didn't ruin your job. I didn't tell you couldn't come to the family reunion. I didn't tell you had to drop dead of a heart attack because you didn't get the jab, so you're not welcome at this hospital. There ain't nothing to forgive on my side, baby boo. This is a you problem.
He's right.
Yeah.
He's absolutely right.
And I'll also agree with you. I have a little bit of forgiveness or quote unquote amnesty for friends and family and people like that who are listening to the news and afraid. It was still their fault for not reading the research. It was right there in front of them.
Unwilling to even listen.
Unwilling to listen. But I have no forgiveness. There should be no amnesty for people like Fauci.
For any political figure, for any mainstream media personality, puppet out there. They all should sit there and pay at some type of cost for this. There were people, PJ, that were pulled off of waiting lists for organs because they refused to get the jab. There were kids turned away from the children's hospitals that provided care for their advanced cancers that weren't allowed to be in their hospital unless they got the jab or their families got the jab. That is how bad they were. All the military members who got ejected out of the military because they refused to get the jab. There is no remorse. There is no forgiveness for those individuals in power that sat there and delivered that to the American people.
Yeah, I had a friend whose mom was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and they told her that she couldn't start chemo for 4 months because they were worried about the COVID stuff. So they shut down chemo treatment. They shut down organ I actually had another friend that needed a kidney, couldn't get that for many, many months. There was many people who died alone in the hospitals. I had family members I wasn't allowed to see before they died of different things because they were locked in the hospitals, and it was you have to be vaxxed, and you have to have the mask, and you have to only go up there like under these ridiculous, like full zoot suits type stuff. It was insane. And actually, Jesse Kelly put this out on Twitter. He said, if you suffered hardship during COVID because of lockdown, social distancing, and mandates, reply with your stories below. And as you can see, we don't have to read all these, but there's people are not alone. This is a huge list of people that are complaining and had. There's businesses that are never going to come back. There's family members that died alone that are never. You weren't allowed to go to their funeral. George Floyd got his gold casket in funerals, but yeah.
Yeah,
so
and we were there. I mean, I remember facing that decision here in Florida because the hospitals were still abiding by the federal guidelines and a lot of these things. My wife works at a hospital, and we had to make a decision where we're going to stick by our convictions, where we're going to stand up and just allow whatever to take place by refusing the jab. And she was willing to be fired for not taking a jab. Fortunately for us, her hospital decided to go against the federal guidelines, the CDC guidelines, and said, no, we're not going to force this onto our employees. If they can fill out they used a religion exemption thing to get a lot of their personnel away from the requiring of the jab. But it was uncertain still, even up to that point, even here in the state of Florida, because of the federal money that pours into these hospitals. They weren't going to get any federal money if their employees weren't 100% vaxxed up. And how many people lost their jobs? How many people suffered because of the consequences, PJ? And they want us to forget. There was we're in political season right now. We have all the signs and stuff for county commissioner and school boards and stuff like that. I saw somewhere where somebody was saying this person was for mask, and they had a little arrow pointing to the candidate's name. We must remember, and we must not forget, and we must not let these people around power, and they must pay, PJ.
Well, that's exactly it. They're trying to control the narrative. We're a week away from the midterm elections. It's looking extremely bad for the Democrats. Mm-hmm. And now they're doing everything they can. I mean, they have been for a long time, but now they're really kicking it overdrive where they're like, hey, we need amnesty. We need to forget these things. Let's move on. Let's also ban anybody who's talking about this. Let's kick Steven Crowder off of YouTube a week or less than 2 weeks before the election. So they're going after this stuff hard.
Yeah, and they are. And it's paramount that we do not allow this to escape. I saw a meme. It's been a while ago. I'm sure. I think I shared it on my page months ago. But it was the Utopia thing with the spaceships and stuff, and it was the soy jack guy. And he says the Republicans were the ones that were pushing COVID mandates and vaccine mandates. The parties were reversed back then.
remember what they Joe Biden tried to do this about defund the police. Well, we always wanted to fund the police. It was the Republicans that wanted to defund the police.
Yeah, and now they're all out there trying to say the new talking point, PJ. I saw from our favorite lefty on Twitter, Brooklyn Defiance Dad or whatever the heck his name is. Talking about really the Republicans have the most dangerous states to live in with crime.
Yeah, wish.com Negan is what I call him. This guy's a joke. We talked about him the other week. I was shocked to find that he's got 2 million Twitter followers, and he gets
he has 1 million. He has 1 million now. What? I don't know if
a million bots went away. It sounds like at least
purged this stuff. But it's crazy what took place. And it's not crazy to the people that are here that are watching, that's been with me and had followed you for some time, PJ, that they understood that this was all going on and they were going to try to go down this route. But now, of course, we're finding out that the federal government were in cahoots with the social media companies, pushing their agenda, pushing their narratives, and people that were speaking out against those narratives, PJ, were being banned at behest of the federal government. And of course, I know we're a lot of smart people in here, and this is some of the stuff that some of us were banned for saying that was happening. Right. And they were like, oh, no, you can't say that because that's not what's happening, but it was happening.
I also want to take people back in time 6 years, if you guys forgot. In 2016, when Trump was elected, we were told that it was because of social media. Social media was unfair. There was stories out there that were not entirely true about Trump. Now, they didn't like you to notice that these Russian bots they claim were very small amounts, and that they were both against Hillary and for Hillary, and against Trump and for Trump, depending on what the story was. It was creating chaos and misinformation from Russian bots. But we were told that any type of misinformation that could sway an election was election interference, and that was the whole story. We went for 4 years on the idea that 10,000 people saw some fake Russian ad, and that swayed an entire election. But now we've got the Twitter and Facebook in regular meetings with the DHS on censoring Americans, and this is not election interference anymore. It wasn't election interference when what did they say? Like 10% of people polled after the 2020 election said if we would have known the Hunter Biden story, we would not have voted for Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. That's an election sway. That is a different result at the end of the election. Whether you believe in the dropped ballots, the switching of voting machines, all of that stuff, you can at least look at, hey, the information that people were allowed to see about Hunter Biden would have absolutely swayed the 2020 election. That doesn't matter. Now we've got DHS with Twitter and Facebook. Do you remember the Disinformation Governance Board?
Yes. Yeah, it was happening way before it even became light. They were already actively engaged in this type of subversion in the American in this country and working against everyday citizens. Anybody that dared question the regime was silenced, PJ.
Yeah, and well, it's funny too, because I know that we had both talked about this before, where it's like, yeah, Disinformation Governance Board, as if it's not already happening, as if these places aren't already in cahoots, as if Mark Zuckerberg didn't go out there and say, yeah, the FBI showed up and told us to censor the Hunter Biden story. We knew this was going on, and now we've just got proof. So in this article, it
and there's
says
text messages in there too, where they were asking better ways on how they could go about censoring people. The tech companies. I believe that was someone from Microsoft, but I wouldn't doubt it if it was coming from places like Twitter and Facebook as well.
Right. Yeah. And in this article, it says that the Department of Homeland, this comes from The Intercept, says the Department of Homeland Security is quietly broadening its efforts to curb speech it considers dangerous. An investigation by The Intercept has found years of DHS memos, emails, documents obtained via leaks and ongoing lawsuit, as well as public documents, illustrate an expansive effort by the agency to influence tech platforms. The work, much of which remains unknown to the American public, came into clear view earlier this year when DHS announced its Disinformation Governance Board, a panel designed to police misinformation. This part's interesting to me. So listen to the third one is what gets me. So it talks about disinformation, which is false information spread unintentionally, misinformation, which is false information spread intentionally, and then this one, malinformation. I swear we're going to start hearing malinformation. We've heard mis and dis a lot. Yep. Malinformation is going to be the one to pay attention to, because this is what they're saying. Factual information shared typically out of context with harmful intent. So now you can say the truth, but if they don't like the result of the truth, that's malinformation. That's what they want to ban you for. So if you come out and say stuff like we said with, hey, cloth masks actually don't work. There's a 2014 study, a Swiss study or Swedish study that shows that it doesn't even block flu particles, which are bigger than COVID particles. That's true information. They just don't like the results of that information. Therefore, it's malinformation. Therefore, the government wants to go tell Twitter and Facebook and all these places, you're not allowed to talk about it. You're not allowed to say the truth because we don't like what that insinuates.
Yeah, and you're right, PJ. And we go back to just the bombshell report that we just had a couple of weeks ago with the whistleblowers in the FBI leaking documents showing that they are actively looking to silence political speech and find political misinformation in order to shut down people watchdogs who are watching drop boxes, for example, and trying to arrest those people. There's a whole litany of things that they can sit there and arrest you for political misinformation. This is how bad it's gotten. And somebody said the Republicans need to defund the DHS and FBI. I agree. All three-letter agencies need to be defunded and disbanded at this point, and military tribunals for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people forget the DHS actually didn't start till after 9/11. So this came in with the Patriot Act. Mm-hmm. This is when a whole new era of American surveillance came in. So we've seen this Orwellian state being built up for 21 years now.
Remember, PJ, if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. Wasn't that the punchline
Yes.
that it went along with that?
Yeah. Well, what are you afraid of? If you have nothing to hide, then you shouldn't care that we're reading through your emails. This was the same thing in 2012 when we found out that Google was selling off our email information, when when Edward Snowden came out and said that the NHS is the NHS. Am I getting that right?
Not
is
NHS.
NSA. The
NSA.
NSA is listening to your phone calls, reading your text messages. Google's selling them your emails. It's okay if you have nothing to hide. Remember, it's just in Hillary Clinton's case, it was just yoga emails, and the rest of it was being ignored. Like that's okay, but it's ridiculous.
Yeah, this all these two stories that we're talking about tonight with the forgiveness amnesty from the left-hand side, and the other story that we have with the three-letter agencies in cahoots with social media in order to silence you based off of the COVID things that they said that was misinformation, which turned out not to be misinformation because it was actually truth. And somebody had said that we need to make sure that we gave forgiveness for all these people. And there's a level of forgiveness I will give. Ben Shapiro, for example, was one of those individuals who did push for the vax early on, but then he changed the stance midway through. I would give him a little bit of leniency. I would give him a little bit of forgiveness. Scott Adams, on the other hand, is still a very convicted person in pushing the vax and refuses to listen to any reason whatsoever, because I think for him, it's because he took the vax and now he's trying to justify why he did in his own way of being the smartest person in the room. Turns out he wasn't the smartest person in the room. One of the biggest people that was on this, PJ, was anonymously over on Twitter. Every single day, article after article after article, and just showing the pitfalls of falling blindly to the propaganda. We went again, PJ. We went against $1 trillion propaganda machine to force you to go get the jab.
Oh, absolutely. And there's still advertising. We had, Colbert out there with his dancing vaccines. Yep. I will say this about Ben Shapiro. That was one of the things that really bothered me was I feel like he's got this thing where he wants to be right. And that's kind of his whole brand, is that he's right about things. And I feel like it took him a really long time to kind of semi-walk down I was right, but the information was, it's hard for me. I have a hard time with Ben's stance on it. I feel like he's never fully been like, okay, you know what, you guys were right. I had the same stuff as you, and I wanted to believe in this thing. I feel like Trump's been the same way in a lot of ways. He's wanted to, be proud of his achievement, and I think his own. I feel like it's his own hubris that's stopping him from just being like, you know what, Operation Warp Speed was a good thing. I can still believe in something like Operation Warp Speed to say, hey, you know what? Because I've said this for a long time. If you're saying we want to allow people to take experimental medicine because they might die otherwise, and it's totally up to them. It's as soon as it became. Right. I actually still believe in that. Like if you say, hey, I've got an experimental treatment for cancer, but it hasn't been FDA approved. If you sign a waiver and you're like, you know what, this, maybe it'll kill me, but the cancer is definitely going to kill me. So I'm willing to take that. That's still something I think we could do as long as people are not forced into it. As soon as it became mandates, as soon as the evidence came out that this stuff is actually creating blood clots and heart problems and it's awful and terrible, like that's when you have to just be like, you know what, it was bad. You can still, like I said, you can still tout Operation Warp Speed and admit that the vaccine sucked. And I feel like Trump's hubris keeps him from that. I feel like Ben Shapiro's hubris keeps him from really coming out and saying these things as well. So, but there's still, like you said, there's a certain amount of forgiveness and amnesty that's for those people or for people who are deceived. It's the fact that this whole Atlantic article is trying to say, well, we shouldn't really go after Dr. Anthony Fauci, who admitted many times to lying to you and ruined your life and destroyed your business that you're never going to get back, and the economy's destroyed and that's not coming back anytime soon. I have no forgiveness for them.
I actually feel pretty good about myself for being able to withstand the pinnacle of peer pressure put on me and you. I remember giving in to start drinking when I was a teenager. I gave into that. But I did not give in with all the with every apparatus available to the government to force me to take this experimental thing. I did not bend.
Yeah, and a lot of us faced
there for a bit, PJ. I was on the fence. I was considering weighing my options. And then as I continued to see the propaganda pushed behind us, and why are they so desperate for me to get this thing?
Yeah, I agree. It was crazy because a lot of us faced real life consequences as well. I remember when it started off, I was one of those, what do you call it? Essential worker. Remember the essential workers idea?
Yeah, my God.
Which I said from the beginning, like day one.
I've ever heard.
I was streaming that day and I said day one, I was like, Yeah, essential workers, because you providing for your family is not essential to someone. Like, your job is not who essential to who. So it was always a stupid idea. I remember work actually gave us these essential workers t-shirts. I'm a truck driver, and I threw mine in the trash, and I just looked at my boss and I was like, this is wrong.
Yeah,
this is very wrong. I'm sorry, but like, I get to work and provide for my family, and this guy down the street who's trying to run a coffee shop doesn't get to. I'm not gonna wear this shirt in front and be like, hey, I'm essential and you're just a plebe. You don't matter. Your family can go hungry because you're not essential like me. I always thought that was really gross. There was one point where work forced us to do the mask thing, and I think I did it for a month, and I went, you know what? No. I stood up. I almost got fired over it, but I was like, I'm just not doing this. We all see the same evidence. It's the mask is a form of compliance. It's not about making people feel good. It's about you saying, I'm going to be compliant. I'm going to do something that is wrong, that I know is pushing people. The mask is a symbol of my job matters and yours doesn't. The economy can be destroyed. You can be locked in your house. Your kids can have all these terrible things happen to them. It was a step on the way to the COVID vaccine passports. Yep. And I just said, I'm not gonna comply even the slightest bit. And a lot of people lost their jobs over. I almost did. I can't believe I didn't, honestly.
I probably would have lost my job if I still worked at a actual job. I was already doing this at that by 2020, by the time 2020 ran around. So I was my own person, right? I wasn't forcing myself to mask up at home.
You weren't wearing the mask on the camera for your streamers?
You know what? I actually did early on. I was like, not to stream with it on, but I wore it. I said, hey, guys, this isn't too bad. I said, if it's going to stop, and then I started reading more and more. I was like, you know what? This doesn't work. Don't do it.
In the very first few weeks,
within the first couple of weeks, my wife's in the medical field, so we were very cautious about a lot of this stuff, and we were the way we approached all of it. It was a lot of unknowns still there. But within the first couple of weeks, we were able to kind of cut through all the rhetoric that was being pushed out there. And I said, I don't think this is going to impact our family like the media is saying it is. I said, we don't have any health problems. We're fairly healthy people. We're young. And it's only seeming to be targeting older people with immune compromised and things like that. I said, okay. So I think we should be all right, based off all of the information that we currently have, based off of everything we know about respiratory diseases and infections and things like that. And you start building that case, and you're like, why am I making more sense than the people that are paid to actually do this?
Yeah, I feel like all of us in the first, like, here's my amnesty. In the first few weeks, we were all confused and we didn't know what was going on. I feel like there was still some stuff where you could look at it and go, that's not American. That's not freedom. That's not right. I feel like a lot of people were kind of okay with the 2 weeks to slow the spread. Like, okay, this kind of sucks and it's kind of authoritarian, but if it's just 2 weeks, if you honestly believe that, people were kind of like grudgingly willing to go along with it, right? And then for me, it was with the mask thing. I was just like, okay, if people put a mask on when they have a cough, maybe that's a good thing. Like maybe during flu season, if you're or cold season, if you're coughing, you want to put on a mask. Like that's kind of fine, I guess. Now I'm just so anti that. I would rather just see someone like snotting all over themselves than to actually wear a mask. Because I'm like, come
closer to me. I want to rub germs on me. I need to make sure I'm protected now. But it's true though. It's to the point where I was even at the point where I'm like, people want to wear a mask, they can wear them. They, your body, your whatever. And then I got to the point where like, we need to lock those people up that are wearing masks.
Yeah, no, for real. Like, I feel like to some degree, like if we could see those people actually have to deal with what the rest of us had to deal with.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I mean, if they came into my store and they had a mask on, I'd be like, sorry, you need to take that off. They're like, well, I'm not taking it off. I'm calling the police.
Well, as the evidence comes out, the vaccine is dangerous. Maybe we should start telling those people they're not allowed to work. Hey, you got the vaccine. I don't want to be around you. We don't know if the spike proteins are going to spread. So like, maybe we should just lock you up for 2 years.
Yeah.
Dude, it was so ridiculous. My daughter, before we pulled her out of public school, she was going to kindergarten when this started. And by the time they started the distance learning, so she was doing Zoom calls every day, and we realized, hey, you know what? This is way less effective than just homeschooling because they're getting nothing done. My daughter's falling way behind. There were kids wearing the mask in the Zoom calls. Mm-hmm. Like that is how, like that's that to me was the final straw of like, this is dangerous. This is 5-year-olds that are being brainwashed into
PJ,
something
I'm
that's insane.
all for internment camps for people wearing masks still. I'm all for rounding them up. Get your
Australia
local
still
sheriffs
got
up and you just start rounding them up instead of COVID, like the COVID positive containment camps that they have in Australia and China. No. Ours are the opposite. Ours are the ones that we're locking up for still wearing masks and stuff like that. We're putting them in camps and re-educating them.
Australia's still got the re-education camps. They should just reverse who's going into it. Did you see the new
story about them in Walt Disney World in China? Do you got that story? Pull it up.
Yeah. So there we go. Visitors trapped in Shanghai's Disneyland resort after a lockdown announced. So now,
it would be terrible if you were trapped in the Small World ride. That would be terrible.
Just on the teacups for like 3 weeks while they're testing everybody. Yeah. So now apparently
and they're using the anal testing, not the actual one that gives you a lobotomy, but the other one.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. How did I forget about the anal testing?
Yeah, that was China. Remember? Because when Biden regime took over, we sent diplomats over to China. And they held up our diplomats because they need to anally probe them with the COVID testing. That was just a way to humiliate the Biden regime.
Was this just a Babylon Bee joke, or did Pete Buttigieg actually come out in favor of these? I can't remember. That's in my mind, remember. But like, if he didn't, I think he was kind of like secretly going, well, yeah, I mean, if we're going to test, might as well test that way.
That bad. Maybe it was the Pelosi hammer test.
Yeah. Paul Pelosi was all in on that.
Yeah, he's like, hey, Nancy, can we go ahead and get those anal probes approved? And she's like, why is he wanting anal probes? She's asking questions, and then this week she found out that he was getting hammered.
I think that Nancy Pelosi knows just as much as Hillary Clinton knows what their husbands are into.
Yeah, of course.
I really do. So yeah, but in China, apparently you have to test negative for COVID 3 days in a row in order to go to Disney at all. And then they go there and they've got these like robots and these like machines that are like testing. You walk by them and
it's like a little
those
drones
infrared,
up in the air, and
you got those like infrared sensors.
Scan. Yeah, QR scan codes and stuff.
Yeah, so apparently, I don't know if someone has COVID or if it just tripped that, and they're just like, "Hey, somebody's got a fever." They shut down Disneyland, locked everybody inside, and they're saying that everybody's going to have to test negative in order to leave. So they literally like trapped them all in a Disneyland in Shanghai.
And not only that, PJ, it's not the first time that the Disneyland in Shanghai has been closed because of COVID. This has been happening numerous different times. I don't know if they got to be losing money over there. They must be bleeding money, which I'm all for at this point with Disney. I want to see them go bankrupt. I want to see the whole operation just go under. And yeah, I know people are like, what about the jobs? Oh, well.
Well, I mean, what jobs? It's a communist country anyway. Like, this is what's so crazy to me is like, how are they?
I'm sorry, I saw that.
The butt gig hammer. Yeah. You know, we've got enough politicians now that are out there making sex tapes and OnlyFans. Maybe Pete Buttigieg sells his dildos for his campaign next time. I don't know.
Maybe Paul Pelosi's running some campaign ads or campaign funding for Nancy over there.
Pete Buttigieg 2024 on the side of a vibrator is what we're gonna see. Does he honestly think do you think he'll run in 2024?
Yeah, I think he will.
I think he will. I think he's so delusional that he thinks like I'm sorry. Did anybody vote for him the first time?
Many people that watch Bros would vote for Pete Buttigieg. So we know how that ended up.
Both people that watched Bros will vote for
PJ
him.
being one of them, of course.
I'm actually glad you didn't ask me to review that movie for the podcast.
I want to do that to you. I knew you would do it out of your own will.
Like there's a line for me where I'm like, I almost thought about what was that other one, that propaganda piece that came out at the same time with the African slavers.
Oh yeah, a Woman King or something.
Yeah, something like. I almost watched that just to review it, and I was like, you know what, I'm good.
Did you see the stuff already with the new Black Panther movie? There was some out there talking about how they don't want white people to go watch this movie.
They said that the first time too, but that's how they make them. What are they going to, like 13% of the population go see a Marvel movie and they think they're going to make money at it? Like that's why Bros failed, by the way. They're like, hey, if you're white, straight, Christian, conservative, do not come see our movie. And then we didn't. And then they're like, well, why didn't you come see our movie?
I was going to come see their movie regardless. If they had told me I got free tickets, I would have burnt them.
Obviously, but like, it's not like we were ever going to see it. But then they added that, like, hey, by the way, all you people who are not going to see this movie, definitely don't go see it. And also, you're wrong for not coming and seeing it. Brokeback Mansion. Yeah, no, the new Black Panther. All I saw about it really was the trailer, and apparently they replaced Black Panther with his sister, and they replaced Iron Man with a black teenage female.
Yeah, from Chicago.
Yeah, I think Riri Williams or whatever is. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm not going to go watch it. I've done,
Ironheart.
I'm pretty much done watching Marvel. I use PJ for all that now at this point.
yeah. She-Hulk definitely took any interest in Marvel out of me. Not that there was much left after I saw the Captain America Disney Plus show.
You know what I want to kind of shift over to? I know we kind of touched a little bit about it, but the whole Nancy Pelosi story, that thing's been weird, man.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this too, because there's this Politico article which is now claiming that right-wingers are spreading baseless misinformation. But get this. This is what Politico wrote. They said David DePape forced his way into the home through a back entrance. I'm sorry. I just am now reading this.
Is this a satire site? Are you sure this is the real Political article?
David DePape forced his way into Paul Pelosi's back entrance. And then, I can't believe they used that. Quote, officers arrived at the house, knocked on the front door, and were let inside by an unknown person when they discovered DePape and Pelosi struggling with a hammer. So Politico says some third party opened the door, right?
Yeah.
Now Politico is saying among the baseless claims that a third person answered the door and the police arrived at the Pelosi home. So the right-wing misinformation that Politico is mad about is Politico's misinformation, which is probably not misinformation. It's probably what they're going to call malinformation, which means it's absolutely true that Paul Pelosi called the police, said, hey, my friend David DePape is here, and you need to arrest him because he's trying to attack me with a hammer. Also, I don't know who this guy is, and there's other people, and we're all in our underwear with hammers at 2 a.m.
This whole story, and of course all the usual suspects on Twitter, all the leftists out there. I can't believe people are making fun of Paul Pelosi getting hammered. These are the same people who sat there and celebrated Rand Paul being beaten up by his neighbor. The same people who celebrated when Trump's brother died, tweeting out "wrong Trump." The same people that sat there and did not call for the end of left-wing violence when they when the Bernie supporter, the Rachel Maddow watcher, sat there and opened fire on a Republican baseball field. The same people who remained silent when one of their people were inspired by Dark Brandon to go run down a conservative Republican in Nebraska. Yeah. We're going to mock you. We're going to make memes mocking you. And then when you start crying, we're going to make memes of you crying while we mock you.
Yeah, so Brooklyn Dad, to bring him up again, he said, he tweeted out this week something like, we should denounce right-wing political violence. Just forget the fact that David DePape is a homeless pedophile who, according to his neighbors, he's a left-wing homeless pedophile, right?
Illegal immigrant.
Yeah, an illegal immigrant. That's who this guy is, according
he's
to
a Trump
every
supporter, apparently, though.
Right, but now we have to denounce him as a Trump supporter. We have to denounce the violence. But he also had tweeted out in 2020 or whenever that Bernie bro attacked Rand Paul. He said, I understand Rand Paul's neighbor. Or no, there was 2 stories. Rand Paul got beat up.
Yep.
And then there was but he said, I now understand Rand Paul's neighbor. So he's advocating for Rand Paul to get the crap beaten out of him by his neighbor. But when that happens to Paul Pelosi, it's awful and terrible. And it's a right winger who did it, despite that he absolutely definitely was not.
And not only that, isn't it curious how quickly they find this random manifesto that apparently was put by him on the internet and then quickly taken down, so nobody else could examine the manifesto that clearly he wrote, said he was going to go after the Pelosi's and all of this stuff. And the security around their house, of course, they have security. Have you ever got close to an official government official not run into security at some point, at some layer?
She's next in line to the presidency after Kamala Harris. You're telling me that there's not Secret Service at her house? There's not cameras?
Even if she's not home, there is some type of still security there to protect her husband and if she has any family members inside that house residence.
They don't want, we'll never see. Here's the thing. Unless someone leaks it out, we'll never see the footage because the footage would go against everything they're telling us.
Yeah, it would completely clear up. That's what a lot of us have been saying. Just release the footage. Just release the surveillance, right?
Right.
Yeah, unless they've called Hillary in to come in with her bleach bit to wipe down the servers.
Yeah. It's her and Hillary are two birds of the same feather. They're doing all this creepy, weird stuff. They know their husbands are into creepy, weird stuff, but they'll get away with it. I mean, how many times did Bill Clinton flood Epstein Island? 27 times?
Yeah.
But that part conveniently gets left out of the documentaries. Or if they talk about it, they're like, here's my favorite thing about this, right? So if you watched the Epstein documentary on Netflix, which I did, there's a line where they say, this is literally the order it goes. This is hilarious to me. They go, there's beds on Epstein's plane, Lolita Express. There's only one reason for beds and cameras in the plane. It's to film politicians and businessmen in order to bribe them because they've slept with underage girls. This is the documentary says all of this. The very next line is Bill Clinton flew on the plane 27 times, but he probably didn't do anything wrong. Also, did you know that Jeffrey Epstein one time showed up at Mar-a-Lago and then they leave out the fact that Trump kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago? So they make the claim that if you're associated with Epstein, you're banging underage girls, but Bill Clinton wasn't doing it, and Donald Trump definitely was, even though he kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club and said it was because he was being creepy towards a young lady at his estate.
Yeah, and I will somebody Mia said something about Brett Kavanaugh on there, and that triggered my memory of remembering just recently during this summer when they were trying to assassinate the SCOTUS members who were going to rule against their Roe v. Wade. And the government, the administration, encouraging the protest in front of it, even though it was illegal for them to protest in front of the Supreme Court justices' houses. The press secretary, along with the Biden regime, were encouraging it. They were not denouncing any of it. And then one disgruntled person from California flew to Virginia with a loaded gun and duct tape and rope and everything else in order to assassinate one of the Supreme Court justices. And they want us to stop talking about Nancy Pelosi's husband? No.
Right.
No.
Well,
Just like we're not going to give you amnesty, we're not going to stop talking about him either.
Well, also think about this too. When you say make your voices heard peacefully and patriotically, that's
a call to violence.
That's a call to violence. But when Chuck Schumer goes out there and says that these people are going to pay, or whatever he said, said something really.
They will heed the whirlwind, which something or other. Yeah.
Very violent sounding rhetoric.
Yep.
And then the next day, Brett Kavanaugh, there's an attempt to assassinate him. But that's not Chuck Schumer's fault. Also, Maxine Waters can go out there and say, push back on them. If don't let them be alone. If they're in restaurants, make them. Yeah, confront them, push back on them. So they can call for violence. This is, by the way, during the 2020 Summer of Love, which Kamala Harris.
That comment was 2017 from Maxine Waters.
Okay.
That she was encouraging people to get in the faces of Trump officials.
Okay, but yeah, so she did it, but there was also Joy Reid. There was a lot of these people during 2020 who were saying this stuff. Hey,
just a guy. We don't talk about the Underworld Fight Club. That's rule 1.
Yeah, and rule number 2 about Underwear Fight Club is you don't talk about Underwear Fight Club. Yeah, so...
Yeah, that Maxine Waters thing was on the heels.
That's right. I forget. Yeah,
the Red Rooster restaurant in Virginia kicking out Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
That's right.
From going in there, getting food for her staff and stuff like that. And then as she was out there in California, Maxine Waters with her yelling and people were recording her. But yeah, they were all like, yeah, we're going to get in their faces. You find them, they're pumping gas. You get in their face. If they're at a restaurant, get in their face. So yeah, but that's totally cool. That's just peacefully letting your voice.
How's that
heard,
not a
PJ?
Call for political violence? Like
because there's a D in front of their name.
Exactly. Yeah. I forget the rules are different. Yeah. Well, it's just like all this stuff about malinformation. They can the media can go outright lie to you for years. The best example of this that we've seen in the last month is Rachel Maddow versus Alex Jones. So when Rachel Maddow pushed the Russia
collusion,
the Russia collusion hoax for 4 years,
she got sued.
But she was let off on the Alex Jones defense as it was deemed by the media because she was just putting conspiracy theories out there. She was just putting theories out there. It's okay.
It was opinion.
Right. It was just opinion, even though she reported on it as fact for 4 years.
Yep.
She gets off. Alex Jones puts out an opinion or a conspiracy theory, retracts it, moves on, and loses $965 million.
Yeah, I think they're trying to sue him for now what, $2 trillion or
$3 trillion.
Yeah,
They're trying to sue him for $3 trillion. They're trying to multiply 965 times 17 or whatever the hell the number is. Or I don't remember exactly how it works, but they're basically saying we need it to be $965 million for each time he said this or something like that. So
right. Yeah.
And not just him. They're also including Owen Schroyer.
Yep.
They're including anybody who is associated with Alex Jones, his mailman. Doesn't matter. Like, if
I'm sure we're down the
this,
list somewhere too, since we've talked about Alex Jones.
I've watched Alex Jones before, so I'm probably
you're gonna get
on the hook for it.
served one day. They're going to be like, yeah, you owe us X amount of dollars now.
Yeah. If you subscribe to InfoWars one time, they're going to come after you.
And all those people are going to get letters from their from a bill from these people. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, man. I tell you what, PJ.
So talking about crazy conspiracy theories, you sent me this article. I want to talk about this ABC producer.
Well, I sent it in our Telegram only for the fact that Tom just reported it on this channel on the Last American Pubcast yesterday. He made a standalone video talking about this exact same thing. So I put it in there so Tom would see it. And I'm glad that we're talking about it. We can go ahead and give a follow-up now to that video that Tom made yesterday. So go ahead.
Yeah, so apparently the ABC producer James Horden Meek is no longer missing. He's been missing since he was investigated, and his apartment was raided by the FBI back in April. So it says Meek this comes from the Post Millennial. It says Meek also stepped away from participating in an awards ceremony a week later when he was due to collect a prize for his coverage of the fumbled withdrawal from Afghanistan. Meek instead told organizers that he couldn't accept. Friends of his have said that he's been missing since the FBI raid and it's packed up his stuff and moved out of his residency. One of his friends says, I sent him a text to ask if he was okay, and he said he wasn't able to talk about what was going on the advice of his lawyer, which was told by a friend to the Daily Mail. That's the last they heard from him. So the FBI raids this guy over a report, supposedly, about the Afghanistan withdrawal. And this links back to what we were saying earlier, because one of the parts I didn't mention yet about that misinformation board, the DHS, is they said that they're going after three things particularly. Let me see if I can find this. They said they're going after misinformation on COVID, misinformation on the election, and misinformation on the Afghanistan withdrawal.
Really? I didn't not know that last part.
Yeah, so it
doesn't surprise me because it's an embarrassment to the regime. That's why.
Right. So it seems like this reporter got his life destroyed over whatever he was going to say about the Afghanistan withdrawal, which is weird to me because we all know, like,
that's all that happened in real time.
Right. In his report, he talks about how there was friendly fire, how people were left behind, how people were being dropped off of the airplanes, like all of the tragedy that we all saw unfold in front of us. But we're supposed to forget it, apparently.
Yeah. And also forget that the administration droned entire family and said it was terrorists that they droned. Remember that?
At a wedding.
No, that one wasn't a wedding.
Oh, that happened too, though. Which one are you talking about?
Talking about the one from the Afghanistan withdrawal. After our Marines were blown up because of the...
that's right. They targeted...
The withdrawal. We retaliated and used a drone to blow up an entire family that had it was like 7 kids and 2 adults.
Yeah, that's right. I almost forgot about that. But that's what I want you to do. They want you to forget about these things. They want you to forget about the Afghanistan withdrawal. I just find it crazy that they
also
actually...
want you to forget that Biden couldn't be bothered with... giving his full attention while the remains of our soldiers were coming home. If you remember that famous picture of him looking at his watch to see if it was time to go get some ice cream or not, while the remains of our soldiers were coming home.
Oh, yeah, just checking his watch. Doesn't care. That part was supposed to be forgotten, too. It says here in this article, it says, independent observers believe the raid is among the first and quite possibly the first to be carried out on a journalist by the Biden administration. That's from the Rolling Stone, by the way.
Yeah.
So, like, everyone, one thing.
It's hard for the course, though, PJ. I mean, the Obama administration went after journalists and locked them up as well.
Right. And what's crazy about this and the other report we had about the DHS is that this is not just coming from right-wing media. Actually, both of these are coming from mainstream media, really. When you've got who's the first article by again? It was the leaked report came from the Interceptor, and then this one we're talking about the Rolling Stones. We're talking about NBC. So apparently, it's not just right wing media. It's just anyone who has the audacity to say anything that makes this regime look bad at all.
Yeah, and that's been par for the course because we know how bad this regime has been. The lies that have been blatantly told over and over again, hoping people won't question it. And there for a long time, and even to this day, there's not much pushback whenever Biden says something that's an absolute lie. How many times has he said that his son died in Iraq? How many times has he
Different
said that
ways,
and not
too.
had a? He said it today. He said it today. Again, and he corrected himself, by the way. He did correct himself about 10 minutes later, saying, no, his son died after he came home of cancer. But he says that all the time, and that's a way to disarm his opponents so they won't attack him on that. Because
this isn't dementia, though, by the way. Remember his
it's not.
1988 run for president when he was unable to complete his run because he was caught in a bunch of lies?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
this is a Biden MO before the dementia. This is his
He
whole
just lies.
career.
He just
Yeah.
lies.
He makes up stuff all the time. It's like a different story about his dad. Like, oh yeah, when I was a kid, my dad said he was for gay rights, but yet Joe Biden was against gay rights until he was for them, like after Obama was. So like that story doesn't make sense. His whole career is just based on lies. It is.
It truly is. And recently he talked about how he was a quarterback for whatever college he went to, but he stepped away from it. It turned out he was kicked off the team because of his low GPA. It was like a 1.6 or something.
Yeah, well, didn't he say he left it for a girl or something like that?
Something like that. Yeah, and he got fact checked on it, and no, it wasn't. It was because he was dumb. He still is. He's still dumb.
That's what's so great to me about the Biden stuff is like you can look at his entire career and you could like the media kind of wants to do, but they don't. Like they do this thing where they say Joe Biden comes out and says, "Oh, I got cancer from the oil on my windshield," and the media's like, "Oh, he doesn't have cancer. He just has dementia." Also, don't say he has dementia. That's misinformation. But yet you can just look at his entire career and be like, "No, this guy he definitely has dementia, but he's always been stupid. He's always been a liar." You can go back through his whole career. He's done nothing but be in on the public dollar for his, since he was 27. Puerto Rican, yes. I forgot Scranton. They call it Little Puerto Rico.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Didn't know that.
Which is also another lie of his, by the way.
I thought the TV show The Office. I thought the TV show The Office would reflect that culture of being Puerto Ricans there in Scranton.
That's what's even funnier though. Is like the Scranton thing is even a lie. I think he moved out of Scranton when he was 7, and he still claims like, "Oh yeah, just your average Joe from Scranton, Pennsylvania. That's where it was like little Puerto Rico there. This place I grew up. You didn't even grow up there. Like that's the funniest part about it."
So I have to ask you, PJ. And this is a serious question. You're gonna have to give me a serious answer. You're gonna have to give me a serious answer on this.
All right.
If these are your only 2 choices, by the way,
okay.
There's no option C. You can't opt yourself off of this. If you had to choose a leader, would you choose John Fetterman or would you choose Joe Biden?
Oh gosh. I mean, that's like saying, would I choose ass cancer or ball cancer?
Which one, PJ? You have to give me an answer.
For the lulz of it, I'd have to go with Fetterman because I want to see like his neck thing like pop open and the head finally exposed and just have you remember Men in Black 2 when Johnny Knoxville had that little thing that crawled out of his backpack? Like I want to see that happen. And he looks like the Goomba. I need to find this. He looks like the Goomba from
from Mario Brothers movie.
From Mario Brothers movie. I'm gonna see if I can find this. But yeah, I don't know, like that
he was also
you want someone who's literally brain dead or someone who has dementia? Like that's the stroke victim or dementia. That's what would you pick?
He was also a truck driver. Don't forget, he drove an 18-wheeler. That's right. I think Biden just watches stuff and he's like, "Oh yeah, that sounds like fun. I could just co-opt that. I'll just say I did that too."
Yeah,
he's like the most what that commercial from Dostoevsky. What was it? It was the most interesting man in the world.
So who would you, if you had to pick one, who would you pick?
Oh goodness. You know what? I think I would have to pick Fetterman too, just for the lulz as well.
Yeah. So here's Fetterman, right? And here was his first
PJ,
movie role.
PJ, go back to the other one. Is that a real photo? That hasn't been doctored at all because that's a small head, man.
I think it's real. Maybe it was doctored. I don't know. It looks real. Maybe it was. Maybe they shrunk his head. But either way, tell me that that's not the same person. Greatest video game movie adaptation of all time, by the way.
Ever.
Super
ever.
Mario
Is
Brothers.
that the hill you're going to die on there?
No. Apparently, Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo said that they were both drunk for the entire making of that movie, which just makes it even better.
It would make sense, though.
Yeah.
It would truly make sense.
I mean, as far as video game adaptations go, are there any good movies made after a video game?
Sonic, the new Sonic movies.
Duh. Those actually are legitimately good.
Yeah, but
My
I mean,
kids
you
love
think Resident
those.
Evil, the first Resident Evil was passable. Everything after the first Resident Evil movie was
Right.
garbage.
The first Resident Evil movie was pretty decent. The first Silent Hill movie was pretty decent. The second one was worse than any of the
It
Resident
was
Evil
like
movies.
straight to DVD, man. Straight to DVD.
Oh, it should have been. Yeah, it was so bad. They tried to make it 3D as well.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Man, I don't know. I think those two might be, or outside of Sonic, I think the first Resident Evil and the first Silent Hill might actually be the best one.
Lara
the
Croft
the first Lara Croft. The second one was like
the
even
second
kind
one
of
was
fun.
decent. The second
Yeah.
was decent. The third one, I don't know if the third one was any good.
Did they make a
Did-
third?
did
I
they
don't
make
remember
three?
a third one.
Did they make
No, they
three?
just made two. The second
Just
one
two.
had Gerard Butler in it.
Okay, yeah, the first
And the
two
first
were,
one had
the first
Daniel
one was
Craig.
better than the second one, but they
Yeah.
were both watchable.
They were watchable. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah, somebody said
I
Doom.
honestly, I still love the 1995 Mario movie though, or whenever it came out.
It was 80 something. It was like 1990.
It was early 90s. I don't remember. I like it
Look
though.
it up. Look it up.
Oh, okay.
Somebody
Doom?
said
I didn't
Doom.
like the Doom movie.
You didn't like that? I've never
No.
watched the Doom movie.
There was like
Didn't it
one
have The
cool
Rock
part.
in it? Didn't it have
Yeah, it had The
in it?
Rock, and he played the bad guy. And there's one
He
cool
played The
part where
Rock
they
in it?
did. Yeah, he played himself like he does in every single movie.
Oh, Mortal Kombat. Yeah, the first movie. Just for the lulls. Just
It's
for the
so
for
bad
the
that
memes.
it's good. The first Mortal Kombat movie.
Just for the
So,
memes.
1993. It was
Okay.
right in the middle of where we were at. Yep. 1993 is when the Mario Brothers movie came out.
Somebody says Fetterman does have a tiny head. I've never seen such a big dude with such a tiny head and such a huge suit.
Yeah. I'm looking at this. I'm starting to wonder if this is photoshopped, but it's still hilarious.
It is hilarious, but it just makes you wonder. Do you know that guy on Twitter says if you retweet this or you like this 10,000 times, I'll make the thing bigger or smaller?
Yeah.
Have you seen that dude?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That might have been that might have
I
been where
don't
this
know.
came from. I don't know. It's pretty great though. I find it funny. Like this is the funniest part about this though, is John Fetterman is so bad of a politician. Like most politicians right now are saying, "Hey Joe, don't come campaign for us," right? Yet like the one thing they're doing with Joe right now is they're sending him to Florida. They're like, "Look, we're gonna lose Florida bad, and we just need you to stay the hell out of the way of any place we have a chance at.
That's
So
why they
go
sent
to
Obama.
Florida." Say what?
That's why they're sending Obama to Michigan instead of Biden.
Well, exactly. That's my point, right?
Yeah.
But yet, who do they send to Pennsylvania? They send Joe Biden. Like it's like I think this is their strategy. They're saying Joe Biden is so bad and so brain dead that he makes Fetterman almost look like passably intelligent of a politician. Like that's how bad Joe Biden is. That's why I think I'm going to go with I'd rather have John Fetterman than Joe Biden, because even the Democrats are like, Joe Biden's so bad he makes Fetterman look good. That's why we can send him to Pennsylvania
Is
and
that why
think it's
they
a winning.
And, Fetterman didn't talk at that rally, by the way.
Right. Well, here's the thing. If they sent Obama to Pennsylvania, which maybe they did, I don't know.
I don't
If
think
they
did.
send
That-
him, I don't think
yeah.
they did, because if they send him, as much as I think Obama's overrated as a public speaker,
Right.
he's a far better public speaker than most Democrat
Better
politicians.
than Biden and Fetterman.
Yeah, it's not even close. Like
combined.
I feel like sometimes people on the right give him too much credit. They're like, he's a great orator. No, he's
No,
not. His
no, he's
speeches
not.
kind of suck.
Yeah, they did.
But he's so much better than Biden and Fetterman that he would make Fetterman look really bad. I think that's why they sent Joe.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, you're right. They sent Joe down here to Florida where they're getting wiped out right now, man. Here in Florida, the Democrats, which is fantastic because the DNC has already pulled all their funding from Florida because it's not competitive any longer in Florida. They pulled all their funding. They're focusing on other races that have become too close even for them. Like New York, for example, Lee Zeldin has closed that gap
I'm
with
shocked by
Kathy
that.
Hochul.
By the way, yeah, I'm surprised that Lee Zeldin is doing so well. I'm not sure he's going to win, but dang, like that shows how bad she is.
Yeah, and you look at even places. Was it New Hampshire? That one's neck to neck as well.
Mhm.
The one in Oregon is neck to neck. There's a lot of competitive races that the Democrats didn't think they were going to have to spend money and defend some of these areas that are traditionally blue.
I was wrong about Biden. He didn't campaign in just Florida and stuff. He campaigned in 54 states.
Well, that's why Trump lost, is because Trump didn't campaign in those 4 additional states.
Yeah, that's right.
He didn't even spend any money there.
He didn't.
No.
No advertisement in the other 4 states that I can't name. Yeah.
That's 3. That's 2 more than Biden or Obama thought there was. He thought
Obama said he campaigned in 52 states.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
2 more.
I will say this.
Joe found 2 more.
If New Hampshire's neck and neck, Pennsylvania's neck and neck and neck. That's all I gotta say about that.
No, it was 57 states. Obama said.
Oh, he campaigned in more than.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why John McCain couldn't win.
Which is crazy because I think Obama's like bad and evil in all these other ways. I just never saw him as that stupid. So like, how do you make a gaffe? And like 50 is such an even number. It's so easy to remember. Like
you were also in the Senate, right? He knew there was only 100 senators, 2 per state. That's only 50.
Right.
But it's simple math. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know how anyone screws that up. He's like those kids, you see those videos that go viral on TikTok where some guy walks up with a microphone. He's like, how many states are there? What's Michigan named after? You know, like they ask him like,
what is Michigan named after?
Yeah, what state of what the question, I saw this on TikTok this week. He said, what state is Michigan named after? And people are like, I don't know. Like he asked stupid questions. Or like they asked like obvious questions like who won the Civil War, who was fighting in the Civil War, when was the Declaration of Independence signed?
You know, it's the West Side gangsters and the East Side gangsters fighting.
Yeah, it was what's that movie?
It was Biggie Smalls and Tupac Shakur.
That's what it was. That was the Civil War.
Those are the 2 generals that were fighting in that war, in the Civil War.
Yeah, and a lot of people think Biggie Smalls won, but Tupac just faked his death and went to the Bahamas is what happened.
Are you going to cover that in Conspiracy Pill? You guys
at some point, yeah. So I had another conspiracy show before where we covered was Tupac and Juice WRLD, and that was our first really big episode that blew up. Apparently, it was right at the time that I don't know if I didn't know who Juice WRLD was before, but he was like 21 and died randomly, and it really looks like he faked his death along with Tupac.
I have no idea who Juice WRLD is.
I will say this. I got to head to work in a minute here, but I will say this for people watching. If you guys want to see some good conspiracy content tomorrow night on Conspiracy Pilled on my channel on YouTube and Rumble and all that stuff, we're going to be covering a really weird UFO sex cult from France. And it's crazy. Like it's worth watching. It's hilarious.
Yeah, for sure. That's at 7:03 tomorrow.
Yep, 7 o'clock, 7:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Conspiracy Pilled. So, and
that's who's hosts that? That's you and
me and Abby, who's also on the podcast. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I gotta get those shout outs there.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, don't forget to come back and join us on Saturday for the Last American Pubcast at 7 p.m. Eastern, and of course next Tuesday, 7 days from now, we have a watch party that we will be having here at the Last American Pubcast. We'll have plenty of guests coming in and out of the pubcast with the 4 hosts that we will be having and talking about what's happening, whether or not we're going to be busting open some champagne bottles or not for the celebration to drink the tears of the left-wing media, as they, I'm sure, are going to have a bad night. If everything plays out the way it's looking like it, they're going to have a bad night. So I look forward to that. Hopefully we're not drowning our sorrows that night. But regardless, it's going to be a long stream. It's going to be a fun stream. And I'm hoping that you guys will come by and support us on that stream next Tuesday.
What time is that again? From 6:30 to 11 roughly? Yeah,
we're starting. The official time for it is 6:30 p.m. Eastern time we're starting. And we're going to go to 11 p.m. is kind of penciled in. But if it's looking like we need to stay on air, a few of us have committed to staying on air as long as need to continue to cover maybe some of the races that may be a little tighter. So we're not going to stay on air for 3 weeks like Pennsylvania.
I was going to say, we'll stay on air till December 6th if Georgia has a runoff. So, yeah.
So we'll be doing that. And of course, look out on the channel. We'll have self-standing videos as well throughout the week from Tom, myself, and PJ, where we will be covering different topics that, again, we don't have enough time to catch on the podcast. And we'll be talking about those individually on the channel as well. So make sure you watch, share, and like those videos as well. Right, Tom,
PJ, whoever I am. Yeah, right. We'll do that. We're cutting up clips from the longer show for you guys to share as well. So please share our videos and keep checking back on the channel. We're going to have more and more content for you guys all the time.
Yeah, so for sure. So ran a little bit late today. We appreciate you guys coming out, being part of the Last American Pubcast on Tuesdays. I think we're going to kind of tweak the name a little bit, like Salty Bites or something. I don't know. We'll think of something and have a cool little new intro, maybe. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But until next time, we'll see you guys on Saturday at 7 p.m. And for PJ and myself, I hope you guys have a great evening, and we'll see you guys soon. Have a great one, everyone.